Some breaking news now this afternoon. The White House says 11 Americans are among the dead in Israel.
The death toll there has climbed to at least 900 people after this weekend's violent incursion by Hamas militants. Israel ordered a complete siege of the Gaza Strip, where civilians and soldiers are being held hostage. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says what happens next will reverberate for generations. The U.S. announced a number of Americans were also killed in the violence, as mentioned, and some are unaccounted for. We go to Skylar Henry for the latest.
Israel says it has largely regained control of its border communities as it pounds the Gaza Strip with retaliatory strikes for Saturday's bloody attack. Israel's defense minister says no food, water, or fuel will be allowed into Gaza, where Hamas is holding dozens of hostages, by some estimates more than 100, and is threatening to begin executions. Among the captives is an 85-year-old grandmother who was paraded through the streets of Gaza.
I'm sure she's very scared, and I'm sure she feels very alone.
The U.S. State Department now believes Americans may be among the hostages.
Just given the sheer numbers involved, we do expect that there may well be Americans who have been caught up in the hostage taking as well.
In addition to those missing, U.S. officials confirm at least 9 Americans were killed in the attack. President Biden said all countries must stand united against the atrocities. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says Iran was complicit and that Israel must strike back.
No more proportional response. The goal of the Israeli military should be to destroy Hamas in Gaza.
America's most advanced aircraft carrier is moving towards the region as Israel confronts shock and grief. This man was at a music festival where more than 100 died.
They didn't care if you're a man or a woman, you're young or old man. They're killers, they're murderers. What they did is never can be forgiven.
Even as the death toll in Gaza rises into the hundreds, Hamas continues firing rockets over the border. And Israel called up hundreds of thousands of reservists, preparing for the next stage of war. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Of course, a dark few days, uncertainty, tough for everyone here and abroad. Our Jonah Kaplan joins us now with some insight.
And Jonah, you've been in touch with Minnesotans living in Israel. What have they told you about their safety and just the ongoing concerns?
You know, you have to put this in perspective. Replace the word Israel or Israeli with Jew. 900 Jews were killed. It is the most Jews killed in one day since the Holocaust. So put that in perspective. And many people here in the Jewish community, many people not in the Jewish community. This is a high-tech hub. There's a biotech hub. Many people do business in Israel. Ari Paritz traveled to Israel last week from St. Paul for a cousin's wedding. And with sirens going off and so much uncertainty, he's unable to fly home to his wife and kids. Several U.S. airlines are no longer flying to Israel in or out. Ari says he's in shock and disbelief with what he's been witnessing outside his window and seeing on the news.
I have this emotion tempered by the fact that so many, even young kids, are not doing that right now. All the kids who were killed and taken away to Gaza aren't having those experiences. They're having a very different experience, and I can't bring those two realities together.
Israel is about 6,000 miles away, but again, this is a conflict that hits home for many people. It's in the heart, and it's very tough to even talk about a word with conflict when this, does this have to do with a land dispute? I mean, does executing people at a music festival or raping women, that's a terror attack, and I think that's very tough. And for the Jewish community, this is a tragedy that has happened before to the Jewish people. Will persevere. And there's a big mobilization happening in the army. 300,000 Israeli reservists are being called up and basically placed across the country. There's concern of the northern border against Lebanon, where Hezbollah and Syria, certainly historic enemies of Israel. So yes, a lot at stake.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are watching thinking, how can they help? Is there anything people at home can do?
The Minneapolis Jewish Federation actually just started an emergency campaign, and this is to help, independent of what you think about the Israeli government and military, there are widows, there are orphans, there are grieving families. So the Minneapolis Jewish Federation has started an emergency fund, and they're going to match the first 200,000 dollars of that. So that is something, family boots the ground organizations. And guys, I just also want to mention there's going to be a solidarity gathering, a vigil, a prayer for Israel, and that's going to happen at a local synagogue at Bethel in St. Louis Park. And that's going to be tomorrow at 6 o'clock, open to all, and heightened security there, because attacks against Jews there's going to be other attacks against Jews across the world.
All right, Jonah Kaplan, thank you so much for joining us.